morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this Radford Job Matching Fundamentals, focusing on the Belarus market. I can see we have a few people who've already signed in. We will probably give it just a few more seconds, and if no one else joins us, then we will just kick off today's session. Today's session should last about an hour, and we we'll break the session down into segments of focusing on the job matching and then having a quick look at the actual input spreadsheet that you guys will use to actually complete your internal data and send over to us here at Radford for us to review. I will just like to point out, if anyone's got any questions, there is a question segment here where you can type any questions. If it's any questions regarding the actual presentation, please use this area to do that. If it's any questions regarding access to the network or a copy of additional information, please email me after today's session personally to get that sent out to you. So I will kick off and move along, focusing on today's session. So the purpose of our session today is to look at the job matching methodology as well as the tools provided by Radford to enable you to actually complete your job matching internally, and then from your job matching complete the actual input compensation input form, which is what we will use to review your actual data. The purpose of job matching your internal roles is to align your internal jobs to the Radford survey benchmark jobs. It's the foundation that we use across the survey, and it's vital as it provides us with good, robust data. And once we get the actual fundamentals of the job matching correctly, then it gives us a sense of security and assurance that the data that you guys have submitted is correct across the region. We're going to look at the input-output guide and the tools within the input-output guide, where you can find various useful documents to help you with this session, with this benchmarking. Within the Radford job matching, we consider the process to be a four-step process, and we kick off the process by identifying the actual functional area. And each segment that we go through, each step that we go through today, we will go through in additional details as we go through today's session. So the first area is to identify the actual functional area, and this functional area is based on the list of functions provided within the Radford survey. Once we have identified the actual functional area, you then need to assign a job category to those, assign your employee to a job category within that functional area. And the job categories are split into four segments. First being executive, and these are people who sit head of division, sit on the executive board, head of regions, and have global remit responsibility. People who sit within the management category are true managers, team leaders, supervisors, anyone who is responsible for the hiring, firing, as well as budgetary needs and appraisals of employees. We have our third category, which is our professional, and professional support sometimes referred to as our unique incumbent individual contributors, and our individual contributors across professionals are career-focused individuals who do not have any responsibility for hiring, firing, or responsibility for a team, very focused on coming into work, doing their job. And then our support function, support category, consists of individuals who sit within a role that provides unique support to different functions within the actual business. Once we've identified, we're able to slot your internal employees into a function and then into a job category. We then say to identify actual job family. And the job family is our job description based on the Radford database. So it's you'd be looking to match your job descriptions internally to our job descriptions in our framework, using the primary responsibilities of your internal roles and comparing that to the duties that we've listed within our job descriptions. Once you've identified the actual job family, you then need to assign a job level. And a job level is used as a unique identifier, which is used to determine or to differentiate the skills, responsibilities, experience that is required for each job. So, for example, you can have someone within the same job family, but you can have them at different levels because different employees are at different levels and will have a different contribution to the business, a different skill set. So you can have, let's just say, a software developer, and a software developer just out of university can be at a level 1, being an entry level, versus a software developer who's been in the industry for 10 years, who's very knowledgeable and be considered an advanced person, and that person may sit at a level 4. So that is how you'd be able to distinguish a higher pay, higher responsibility, higher skill set requirements by the levels, the job levels that is assigned to that particular individual. The aim is to have and identify the functional area, the job category, the job family, and the job level. What we're trying to do is to come up with something that's referred to as a job code, and we will go into job codes in a little bit. So one of the questions is, what job am I matching? Well, what your first decision is to do and to consider is the actual job information. And this is the job description that you may have in front of you. And other things to take in consideration when you're kicking off the job matching process is to consider internal factors that can help. So we recommend stuff like job structures internally, your organizational charts, job descriptions that you have, and these can sit in-house with your HR team, or it could be that you do require managers who are experts within the subject matter. And if you've participated in any previous surveys, most of you, this is your first year with Radford, if you participated in any previous surveys, past survey submissions may help you in aligning that job information. So just some quick tips when it comes to and some of these slides will be sent out, and so some of these we will go through a little bit high level and focusing on the more important stuff. But in terms of defining the job, it is always a really good idea when you group those jobs together. And what we say is look at jobs who report ideally probably to the same manager. We'd expect to see those individuals, those internal employees sitting within the same function. So it's always easy if you look at individuals within one function. So an example would be, if you were to look at your IT team, it may be good to look at your IT team when you're doing the job matching process and use that group them together and job match only IT at one time, only HR, only marketing. It helps to make the focus of the roles in which you're looking for a little bit slimmed down. You will find if you've got 32 software developers, that's pretty much doing the same job. They all will be assigned to the same job family. You may have a differentiation across the levels. You may have a software developer, a senior software developer, or a junior software developer, and all will be assigned to different levels. However, if you do group these jobs together, it does make the process a lot more streamlined and easier. And then one of the things that you consider for going forward, new hire, is understanding how to, as a new job, how to use that new job and how to validate a job match for the new job. And one of the things that we like to say is to validate the job responsibilities, focus on the actual role and not the person. So if you were to be looking at a marketing manager and Joe Blogs is currently working within that job and you're job matching the role, you're not looking at the skill set necessarily that Joe Blogs has to the role. You're actually job matching the marketing manager role. So if Joe Blogs was to leave your company today, who would you be recruiting for, the skill set that you would need, the competency levels that you would need, and education experience that would be required for someone new to fill this post. And sometimes it's always good to take a step back when you come across any difficult job matches and say, okay, we are matching the actual role and not the person that's currently working within the role. So we kind of cover this as we were speaking just now. So things to look at Radford. So where do I look for Radford job codes? So within Radford, we have a host of different guides and charts, and what we're going to focus on is the functional matrix, and understand and explain to you how the functional matrix works. So the functional matrix can be accessed from the input-output guide, and we will have a look at that on the actual Radford network. And if anyone here on today's session have already signed up and sent over your actual agreement to Brenda and is currently fully participating within the survey and have not received your access and login information, please feel free to email me privately at the back end of today's session so we can follow up on that to ensure that that information is sent out from our US password team as soon as possible. Here we've got our functional matrix, and here we can see, as an example, where we have finance and administration. The finance and administration refers to the actual function, going back to our 4-step guide. Here we have our executive, management, individual contributors, or professional and support. And these are our 4 categories in which we need to assign an individual to. And having identified the actual category, haven't identified the function, haven't identified the category, then we need to say in some cases there are sub-functional areas, in other cases they are not. But here we need to identify if we're looking for a facilities manager, who's someone who has responsibility of a team. We know that this person may be found within the finance and administration function. The person is definitely a manager of managerial responsibility. And here we go down the actual available and list of jobs, job descriptions, job families available. And here we see this is a facilities manager, and this may be a role that we would be interested in looking at to see if the job description that Radford has provided matches your internal job description to at least 75% or greater. Right next to it, to the right, you see that there is some codes, and this is referred to as a job code. The job code refers to the first 3 digits of our job family, and within our global technology survey, our job codes consist of 4 digits primarily. The first 3 digits of that job code represents the job family, and the last digit represents the level. So if you go back to what we said earlier in the 4-step process, after identifying the job family, we then assign a level, and a level distinguishes the skills, responsibilities, and duties that that particular role has. And that, when we see the complete job code ranging from 3301 to 3306, this says to us that a facilities manager has job data information available, and or the levels go from level 1 to level 6. So you're able to job match someone from a level 1 to a level 6. We're going to cover this in a little bit more detail on the next slide, and we're going to look as a breakdown of a job code. And for the purposes of today's session, we will be using a marketing manager as our main example. So what is a job code? A job code here at Radford is a unique code that is used to identify the job family as well as the job level. So when you communicate to Radford and you say to us you require data, after we get the database up and running, you require some data for someone at 2505, we would instantly know that you need a marketing manager role and someone quite senior at a level 5. As I said before, the first 3 digits here in red represents the job family, and the last digit of the code represents the actual assigned level. So moving along within the Radford survey survey. We do have 3 surveys, but I've highlighted and focused the survey that the Belarus market will be focusing on, and that's our global technology survey. Here we have a list of functions, and when we get to the actual network, I'll show you some quick tricks in identifying functions and slimming down your focus so you don't have to look at all the functions at the same time. Here we've got our general management, operations and manufacturing, product development and engineering, finance and administration, HR, IT, marketing, business development, professional services, anything to do with services and support. And then for those companies who are unique and have a crossover between medical devices, life sciences, and tech, we do have some unique roles, and you'll find that the job codes across these roles are slightly different to what you would see across our other functions and our engineering section. And I would just like to point out that the last 2 functions we wouldn't expect to see any of our companies, gaming companies within Belarus, having any focus or job matching any roles to. So matching tips. When you are looking to match a role, and we will go through a live example of how to match a job role, one of the things that we did say before is grouping your employees, and this could be grouping them by the departments internally or trying to group them based on the Radford list of Radford functions, assign them to functions or teams and look at them in smaller groups. Key things to bear in mind when matching, that if you do have a group of people reporting into a direct report, so you will have, let's say, a group of technicians, and they may report into a technical engineer, for example. If you group those together, you do expect the technical engineer as well as the technical support individuals, the technicians, to all fall within the same job family, within the same function. And you will see as we look at the job family, sometimes in some cases you can see a nice crossover from support to professional to managerial into executive. So you may have a technical support, a technical engineer at a professional level, a technical manager at a managerial level, and a technical director. It's not in every job family case that you will see that nice crossover. It really is unique to the type, to the industry, the type of roles. And some roles you will find more that across the industry, what we see from our clients is that some roles are unique and they report into more of a generalist manager, and you will see that across the actual database. And I will highlight that to you. So we spoke about assigning the job category. We did cover a little bit, but just to recap, when we talk about job categories, we talk about executives, management, professionals, and support. And when we say that someone qualifies to be assigned or aligned to a job category of executive level, we expect this person to be someone who has a global remit, regional remit responsibilities, as well as country level responsibilities, and in some cases head of departments, but more on a country level. This person is also responsible for development and strategy, as well as responsibility for policies. So those are unique identifiers that you can use to differentiate someone who is an executive. And a lot of times you tend to find someone, they sit on your REMCO committee, they sit on your board of directors, in some cases. It just depends on your internal structure, but these will be the top reporting line people across each division within your business. Your management, they manage people, performance, budgets, and resources within the business. They're responsible for your appraisals. They're responsible for, they have a significant input, final say in some cases, where they decide if someone is hired for a particular role or if someone is fired. When we start to look at the levels across the management category, we will see that the first 2 levels at our lower levels, the management, people that can be assigned to the management category can be of team lead quality or supervisor level. And we say that because they may have the responsibility of managing a team, but they don't have the complete true responsibility of a manager from a budgetary standpoint, being responsible for appraisal and development of people and managing people. They may still report into someone above them who completely oversees that process. And in those cases, we do have our first 2 junior levels across the management category that we use to assign those individuals. And that's a management 1 and a management 2 level. And we will cover that in a little bit more detail. Here we have our professional category, and these are focused on being creative. These are decision makers within the business, no managerial responsibility. They can range from new employees who just come out of university, entry industry in which they operate within. And finally, we have our support, and within our support here we see we are looking at people who are more task oriented, probably our technical support, our admin support. So if you use a human resource department, for example, your HR administrator, generally you would find that person aligned to and matched to a support function job category. So what I'm going to do is, there's quite a lot of little tips as we go along, but we'll use a real life example, switch over to the network and use a real life example when it comes to doing a job matching. So just before we do that, just another quick tip to be aware of before you kick off your actual job matching process. There is some do's and don'ts, and what we say is do match the primary responsibility of the role. And when we say primary responsibility, what we're focusing on is the core duties and the core responsibilities of the job, of your internal job. So you will have your job description that's provided to you by the head of department, line manager, or housed by the HR department. And you want to match that role to a 75% or greater fit to a Radford job description or Radford job family. And the job description and job family is the same thing. It's just the terminology is just used differently across different slides within our network. So that's just to be aware of. If you have any roles that are considered to be hybrid roles, we do not expect you to submit those roles, not this year. We do typically ask our employees to match them to what is called GWA codes, but my understanding is we're not building up the GWA codes this year, and that's something that we'll probably be introducing next year. Just to get the fundamentals up and running this year, we'll be looking for correct matches across the actual region. Things to consider to do not match. Do not match on job title alone. In some cases, you will have an employee who has a job title that can be misleading, but the skills and responsibilities of that actual role is more aligned to another job within that function. And for example, we will be looking at a marketing manager as we go along today. But if you have a marketing manager within your business, you're a small company. Being a small company means sometimes your roles, responsibilities are wider than you would see in a larger company. A lot of times we see the role responsibility is a lot more narrow, a lot more focused on the job. Smaller companies with smaller headcounts, we tend to have a marketing manager, but a marketing manager may have more duties and responsibilities, more expectation to cover stuff within the wider marketing umbrella than just focusing on a core marketing manager's role. So for example, a person may have responsibility for a little bit of marketing and sales, but the person job title is considered a marketing manager. In that case, your inclination would be, because this job title says a marketing manager, we will match them to a marketing manager. Having looked at the job description that you have internally, you will be able to identify that there is a level of responsibility for sales as well, and you will see that we actually do have a marketing and sales role, and it would probably be best to align that person to a marketing and sales role and not just use the job title only as your key identifier in job matching. Things that you must consider: pay, performance, years of experience are all really good contributors to help identify where to job match, but they should not be used as the only reason. So if you see someone has a higher pay, you may say, because this person's salary is higher than this other salary, then the level of this person will be higher. In some cases, that is correct. In some cases, you will find that an employee has been within your business for a significant period of time, and being within your business for that long, they have acquired incremental increases over a 12-year, 15-year span, and they may have a significantly higher salary than what the market currently says. Or it could be that there was an acquisition and a merger happened at some point, and you have grandfathered salaries that came over, and those salaries are in some cases higher than what you'd expect to see across certain other areas within your business. If you have an internal grading structure, you will see that in some cases your grades, salaries will fit within a certain bracket within grades, and you may have a few outlays as well. So you know your business better than I do, and you'll be aware of those unique circumstances that you have internally. But please don't use pay, or please don't use years of experience or a performance to be the only reason in which you actually assign a job level or assign a job family to your employees internally. You remember we're looking at the whole fit, looking at the top 3 to top 5 core duties and responsibilities of that role, and in cases where it becomes difficult and you want to take the actual individual or the employee out of the scenario and say, if we were to recruit tomorrow for this role, what would we be looking for in a new person? So that's some key things. Other things to consider is that the Radford database is a very broad database. Our survey descriptions are quite wide, and they're meant to cover the industry. So you will find that they sometimes the contexts are small, but again, we're focusing on the core duties and responsibilities and the expectations of the role. Not every duty that you will have within your marketing manager internally will be displayed within the Radford job description. It is intended as a benchmark and not necessarily a laundry list of duties and responsibilities. So just before we do a real-life example, we're just going to quickly cover job leveling. And with the job leveling, we're going to go into just a little bit more detail and look at the actual job charts available, the job leveling charts available on the network. And here we see the levels that vary across the business. So we have on our executive level, and we see our executive levels are slightly different from what we see when we look at our professional support and management. Our executive level range from level 7, level 8, and level 0. And level 0 being the top person across the business, the top head, global function, responsibility for a major region or a country or a division head. And I know we have talked about this before, I've mentioned it before, but it's just to reiterate. At a level 8, we expect to see someone who's a senior vice president level. And only in companies who are quite large companies, we typically see someone aligned to a level 8. A level 7 is a vice president level, and this can be the person who is above your director, and that person is matched to level 7. Now, we won't expect to see someone submitting an employee matched to a level 8 unless a level 7, there's a reporting line, a clear hierarchy reporting line function with someone who sits at a level 7, reports into someone at a level 8, and then level 8 reports into level 0. If you do not have level 8 quality employees within your business. So you don't have that structure. We do find a lot of smaller companies do not have that. That is not uncommon. Level 8 has actually only been recently introduced in the last 2 years. We'd expect to see someone at level 7 assigned to a level 7 reporting directly into someone at level 0. So if you have your vice president of marketing, for example, that person will be reporting into the marketing global head, and we'd expect to see your vice president match to a 2507. Remember, the last digit represents the level, and in this case, going and matching into, reporting into someone at a 2500, which is your global head function. So if we bring it down just a little bit, here we've got our management levels. And within our management level, we can see that this is solely to GTS, and GTS refers to our Global Technology Survey. Within our life sciences and our global sales, the structure is a little bit unique, different, and it varies a little bit. So specific to global tech, within our management, our levels and our job levels range from M1 to M6, and M1 being a supervisor, and that is the lowest level, to M6 being a senior director, and that's the highest level within management. Key things to note that M3s are someone at a level 3 is considered to be a true first line manager. So someone with true managerial responsibilities, we'll expect to see those individuals match to a level 3. So you will have, when you look at your distribution, once you have finished doing your matching, you will find that you have within your managerial section, your chunk, your heavier, the more employees will generally be matched to a level 3, and then it would disperse and scatter outwards in terms of level 4, level 5, level 6, or level 1 and a level 2. We typically see someone at a managerial level reporting into a director level. In some cases, you may have a small organization where a manager reports directly into the senior manager, and then that is not a problem. But be able to clearly identify in your leveling who is a manager, a senior manager responsibility, and someone at a director's level versus someone at a senior director. There should be a clear distinction across those levels within the business. Your supervisors and senior supervisors, here again we expect these individuals to be team leads, responsible for 1 or 2 people, don't contribute solely and wholly to the managerial process, but they do have a small contribution in terms of a lead, in terms of a team, a small team, a managerial team. Moving on to our professional and support levels, we can see our professional level run from level 1 to a level, generally a level 6. This year we have introduced a distinguished level across the network, and that is only for, I think, one job family that you will see can be assigned to a level 7. So generally all the techs that you will come across on the Radford network will only talk about entry level P1 to P6, which is a principal level. Again, here we see P1, we expect to see individuals who are fresh out of university, individuals who are new to maybe the workplace, no experience or skills required, and those would be our entry level versus someone at a career level who is fully operating and fully functioning, don't need that much guidance and supervision, versus someone who is a level 5 or level 6, considered to be an expert or a principal within the industry, completely work autonomously, don't have any managerial responsibilities of a team, and these people are considered to be, the distinguished people are considered to be absolute experts across the industry and are well known, and in some cases you will find more of your internal consultants matched to these unique or your top engineering guys matched to these significantly high level. And don't be alarmed if you in some cases don't have anyone that's matched to a level 6, and if you do, you will find that it's a very small number, in some cases less than 3. that you may be able to match to between a level 5 and a level 7. And the support, quite straightforward. S1, support level 1 is entry. Support level 3 represents our senior career, and support level 5 represents our specialist level. Key things to remember. Try, when you're doing the job matching, I think I pointed this out at a managerial level, you want to start doing the leveling and the matching at the center, and start from the middle and go outwards. So in this case, we would say start with your true managers, all your level 3s in managerial, your level 3s in professionals, and then you go outwards, and that's up or down. You will find the chunk in the bulk of your employees sit at the career level, and then it's easier to do the disperse when you start at the actual middle. So this is just a little bit more context. We have touched about the job leveling when it comes to executive, the level 8s and level 7. But it's a little bit more context, and you can read these in the slides as we go along. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to skip forward through all of this, as we've actually talked through these in our previous slides, and I'm going to look at the actual network. And within the actual network, what we're going to do is use a real life example and identify how to do the job matching process. So everyone should have access to the Radford network, and if you don't, again, please do email me at the back end of today's session for that. And here we've got our home page. Remember, our focus is on a global technology survey, and where we'd like to go on our focus right now will be the input-output guide. The input-output guide is separated and divided into 3 different sections. The first section is the input kits, and this is something that you will be using as you start to complete your actual compensation input form. The second section is the job matching tools, and this is what we will focus on today. And the other section is the output guide, and this isn't something that we will focus on at this moment until we are able to get job data output for the Belarus market. So key things to probably talk about while we're here before we move on to the job matching tools is there is something that's called a glossary of terms. This is a really important document. This covers all the terminology used. Radford is a US-based company, and a lot of our terminology that is used is very US-centric. Even with our regular English-speaking European clients, sometimes come across different words and just need a quick translation over into just a verification of what exactly that refers to. The glossary of terms is where you'd need to go to have a quick look if you come across something that says diluted, undiluted, for example. And this is just a real-life query that I had yesterday. The explanation of that and what does that mean and how that is calculated can be found within the glossary of terms. Secondly, there is something called resources and definitions, and this goes hand in hand with the glossary of terms, and this covers our exchange rates, other common terminology used, and lists our countries and industry codes. So those are 2 really important documents, and here we've got our overview. I wouldn't focus too much on the compensation input instructions, as that is, we do have a tab within the actual spreadsheet, and that's being translated into local language for yourself. And for everyone, you'd need to complete something called your company profile, but we will talk about that at the very end of today's session. So focusing on the job matching, we talked about the functional job matrix, and the functional job matrix is a tool that can help you to identify your job matching, to be able to identify the functions, and it's our exhaustive list across the global technology survey of all the jobs that we do have available. So I'm just going to scroll down until I find the actual marketing and business development function, and we will just use this as a quick example. Here we see we've got our marketing and business development function. And this can be saved to your local drives, but I will show you something that's a bit more quicker, a bit more technical suave as we go along today's session. But in the event you don't have access to the network and you need to do it the manual way, we do try to show you how to use the functional job matrix. So once you've identified the actual function, in this case is the marketing and business development, in some cases you will have something that's referred to as a sub-function. So here we see we've got our sub-functional areas, and here we can see within marketing and business development, our sub-functions are general management, marketing, internet and e-commerce. So if we were looking for a role that sat within marketing, but it's more focused on online related stuff, we instantly know that we don't need to look at these job descriptions or job families, that our sub-function will be focusing on the e-commerce and internet area. So we would come down here and we'd start looking at the roles available within that section. Focusing on our general marketing role, we know that we're looking for someone within the marketing and business development. We've read the job description internally provided by the marketing director or the recruitment team or the hiring manager, and we are clear about the fact that this person is not an executive level. The person is not a professional individual contributor or a support, because they actually have true managerial responsibilities, will be responsible. The expectation is that they will be responsible for a team and have all the associated duties alongside with that. So we definitely know that we're looking within, apologies for that we're looking within the managerial, the management category. So just apologies, I've just accidentally moved that. So here, this is the section that generally we'll be focusing on. Now, at the very top, we can see that there is a marketing management role, and this marketing management role with the actual job code next to it. I'm just going to make this just a little bit bigger so everyone can see. Here we see that this may be our first point of reference to identify the actual job description. So to find the actual job description, using a manual process, I'm going to export this. Using a manual process, we go back to the actual job matching tools, and here we see we have got something called job descriptions. So if we click on this, this is the exhausting list, and it is completely full of all our job descriptions within the Radford survey, and it can be printed if you wish. To save the trees, I would recommend that you probably just save it on your computer, as we have a more efficient way of actually doing this. But this is just to let you know that this can be done should you not have access to the Radford system for any reason. We do have something that's called a job description by functional area, and it's a mix of the functional matrix and the job descriptions. I'm just going to click on job description by functional area, and here we see what comes up is a list of all our functions that's available within the Global Technology Survey. So when I said before that we can pinpoint and focus on the area that we wish to focus on by clicking marketing and business development, here we see, using something very similar look and feel to the functional matrix, we can see that we have our executive management professional support as our job categories, and then we have our sub-functions located to the left-hand side, and then we have all our job families located below. Now, we're looking for a marketing manager, and we know that's within the marketing business development function. We know it's someone within the management category. So we generally know that this is the area, the scope in which we are trying to pinpoint or to match the internal role. So we have a host of different job titles, again, not completely going on the job title by itself, but in this case, which is a little bit more clear-cut, we can identify that this person is a marketing manager. Now, we also use the example of not using someone who has the same job title, using a job title only as a reference point. So had our internal job description say that the person, the marketing manager we are recruiting for, we're trying to job match, is also responsible for sales, then we would look at the marketing and sales manager job description. and job family, as well as look at the marketing manager and see which best fits our internal job description, so 75% or greater. In this case, I know we have a general marketing manager, and we will click marketing manager, and automatically, rather than having to go to look for the job description, the actual job description appears by clicking on the actual job family. So here we can see some text and some context that gives us an overview of what Radford expects to see a marketing manager, the duties, the core duties, responsibilities, and activities of a marketing manager. And to help understand and interpret this section refers to the function, this refers to the actual category, this is the job code, and the level 2 to level 6 represents the level in which this particular role can be matched to. This is the actual summary and context of the job description. And if we look below, here we can see in some cases, Radford, they say you may not find an employee completely matched to this role. However, you can look at other marketing manager roles, and we do give you those jobs, so you can if you find something that's a little bit more appropriate, or you may say this matches to a 60%, but you know there's a few things missing, we do give some suggestions at the bottom of that job description, so you can refer to the product marketing manager or a channel marketing manager as appropriate. I'm just gonna have a quick look to see if there's any questions in the group. Okay, that's great. So I think I closed that, so let's just recap on that. Having identified that we are looking for a marketing manager, we talked about having identified the job family, and this is the job family, and within the job family here we can see that the job code is 250, and we just need to now assign a level, which can be a level 2 to level 6 based on the skills and responsibilities of that particular role. So going back to our input-output guide, looking at our job matching tools, we're going to refer to something that's called the leveling charts. So we have covered leveling when we looked at the actual presentation that we covered earlier. However, I would just like to highlight that the leveling charts can be found on the input-output guide, and the leveling charts go into quite a lot more detail using an analogy, looking at scope, complexity, interaction, supervision, as well as looking at skills required within the organization. I'm just going to scroll down to the professional section, job complexity and experience and knowledge required. We have talked a little bit about levelings, but this is the first one of the key documents and key tools that we would expect you to use to help you to grasp the concept of levels across Radford. And here you can see the professional are nicely laid out as they all fit onto one page. If we scroll up, we just kind of scroll past the management area, but we can see what is expected and what is deemed, how we'd expect to see the scope and the duties and responsibilities, the skill set, supervision responsibilities acquired are required by someone who represents level 8 or a level 7. And here you see there's also a little quick text to tell you who we expect to see these individuals reporting into. I'm just going to quickly go through a level 3 and a level 5. So we talked about a level 3 being a true manager, first line manager, and I'd just like to reiterate that. You know, we expect to see that this person interacts with the subordinates, customer service, peer functions, other group managers. They work across a diverse scope of issues within the business. And here, you know, in some cases, a manager reports into a senior manager. We're not saying that that's not right, that's not wrong or right, it's just how your business is made up. But in most cases we will find that someone at a level 3 reports into someone at a director level at level 5, and here there's just a little bit of context to remind you, typically managers who reports to management level 3. And that is our leveling charts. These leveling charts, it is really useful to you to have a quick look at them, a little bit more of an in-depth look before you actually kick off your job matching process, just so you can get a look and feel of how the leveling should be and who you'd expect to see at different levels. Not excluding our support individuals, but here we see our levels across the support, our support function, our support category, and we cover skills, job complexity, supervision, and experience required. And the years of experience required across both support and individual is generally a guide. In some cases, you may find where it says a degree is required. Years of experience and equivalent to is just as suitable. So that is looking at our job leveling charts, and that's looking at our job descriptions, and that is how we go about identifying and creating our actual job code. Remember, the job code consists of consists of four numerical numbers, the first three representing the job family, and the final code, the final individual digit representing the actual job level. So that is us looking at job matching across the business and how to use the tools that Radford has provided. Using your internal tools is a lot to take in, I'm aware of that, but we've got about 10 minutes, and I'd like to shift the attention over to, once you have job match your roles internally, how to communicate that job matching information to Radford. So job matching, understanding the methodology is one aspect of it. For those of you who are completely new to surveys, do understand that we are here to provide support, so do feel free to ask any questions. We are aware one or two of you may also have used Hays in previous life or before, or currently do use Hays, and you may be a little bit familiar with completing survey submissions. The survey submission that we have tailored to the Belarus market is a very small, slimmed down version, as we're looking at a cash survey for our first year. So our focus is mainly on core elements. First couple columns are all unique to all the individuals that you will be submitting data for. So here you've got your Radford company code, Radford location code, ownership, though that information should be presented in these columns for each employee. We do ask you to say whether you're a public or private company or non-profit. And here we see we have last fiscal year revenue and the revenue currency. This only represents to employees who are matched and assigned to a job code 80 to 620, and these are executive jobs. So where you have anyone that's matched to a 620 job family, we expect you to list the actual revenue responsibility for that person in the last fiscal year, as well as the actual currency in which that revenue responsibility was in. Okay, moving on to column F, and just conscious of time. Here we see for the employees in which you are submitting, and remember this is going to be a whole host of employees, so please confirm the actual country area. And in this case, we know the market in which we're focusing on. And then please provide, and this applies to all your employees below, so it's most times it's just a drop down. So please provide the actual currency. Now as we get to column H, here we ask for reading and understanding the actual input. Here we say we ask for the employee incumbent ID code, and that is whatever ID code, unique identifier, referred to sometimes as an ID number, that each individual have when they start working at your company, that they're assigned to an individual number. And if you don't currently have that system or that structure, please feel free to use a combination of date of birth, initials, to be able to identify those employees. What we do not require, and what we do ask, is that you do not submit any employee names to us, to our databases. That's a breach in your internal confidentiality with your employees. So you would input someone's ID number, and here you see we ask, what industry do you operate within? We will have a large number of you will operate within the entertainment and gaming industry, and some of you may find yourself a little bit in different areas. But to be able to identify which area best suits you, we do have a tab that says industry definition, and if you can have a quick look at the industry definitions as well as the industry codes, and that will help you to better assign yourself to an industry code. The date of hire for this employee, so we would just put the 1st of January, that's not January, but the 10th of October 2015. Here is this person, did this person receive a new hire bonus in the first 12 months of being of hiring? And you find that some senior people do that. That's something that is slowly phasing out, but we still do see it across the market. And if that was the case, please put the actual value that's been granted to the employee that's been granted to the employee in the last 12 months as a whole number. So then that can be anything from 1,000 and above. And this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of things, and we get a bit more focus using the actual job matching that we've done before. So I'm just going to highlight this just a little bit. Here within column R, this consists of our actual job codes. So we know we've matched our marketing manager to a 2503 using our example, and this is the column we actually input that information to. Having inputted the job code, we can see that the actual job title from the Radford survey appears, the category and the level automatically appears. Please do not insert or delete any columns within this spreadsheet. The spreadsheet has been tailored to the Belarus market, but because we do have something that's called a macro run, in which this spreadsheet needs to go through within the US, we have hidden some columns in comparison to our normal input spreadsheet. So any movement of columns within this actual spreadsheet will cause a massive issue on the back end. So any additional work that needs to be done alongside the spreadsheet, if it can be done in a separate spreadsheet, that would be much appreciated. Scrolling over, and we've only got a few more columns left, and we've got about 3 minutes. So here we see we've got the job code, internal job code, and not every company has an internal job code. In some cases, you may have a grading structure, and if you do have a grading structure which you know, say someone at your grades go from level A to a level D, level A being your executives, level D being someone that's much junior, and you can see that there's car allowances structure. You can see that there is your bonus eligibility is different across each grade. You can put those grades in, and that helps us to, when we're actually reviewing your data, to have a wholesome view of how you actually categorize your employees internally. If you do not have any of that information, it's absolutely okay to leave this column blank. Here we have job titles, and this is quite straightforward. You have your marketing manager, and we ask in the following column if you can put who that person actually reports into, and that's your marketing director. And in some cases, you will find that this information is readily available in your HR system, and it's a matter of downloading that information and populating these fields using your unique identifier, either in your employee number, to help you to do some VLOOKUPs into this spreadsheet. Some basic stuff, the actual annual salary of that employee. Is this person receiving a car allowance, a company car? If the person is receiving a company car, if you can put C. If they're receiving a car allowance, if you can put A. If they're entitled to either a car allowance or a company car and it's their choice, they can put E. If not, they're not eligible to receive any of the above, or you just don't have that scheme within your business, you put the letter N. for where we receive a company car, we would like to see the actual lease value of that car. And in some cases, you may have a 2-year scheme, a 3-year scheme with your actual fleet company. We would like you to look to give us the annual cost. So if your fleet company value for the car is $15,000 over a 3-year period, if you represent that as $5,000, we would be much appreciated. And we expect all the currency to be represented in local currency. So that's from salaries to allowances, etc. Should a person receive an allowance amount, please put the annual amount that is received, and everything that we do ask for within a Radford survey is an annual figure. And in whatever case that it may be that the person is eligible to receive a company car or a car allowance up to the maximum value of $4,500, if you can also communicate that to us. And where there is no, you can put 0 or you can just leave it blank. Preferably 0, so it does show that it's been populated. Here we've got some other allowances. If the employees receive other allowances, and we have a list of possible allowances that can be received across the business, if you can enter yes, no, and where you do have yes, please represent whether it's a housing allowance, transport allowance, a meal allowance, or any other type of allowance. And where you have other allowance types, if you just indicate exactly what type of allowance that can be, and if it's something like uniform allowance, for example, you can indicate that in column AN. We've got about 4 more columns, and quite basic stuff. Your current CFY represents your current fiscal year, and we ask you, is this employee eligible to receive a bonus? Some companies do not have a bonus scheme. That's absolutely fine. If you do have a bonus scheme, you will have an idea of who within your company, and it could be new joiners. New joiners may not be eligible, but you will have an idea of who is, and if you represent that by yes or no, and if someone is eligible for a bonus within this current year, what we'd like to know is roughly what's the target that person is expected to receive. Now, we all know when it comes to bonuses, things can change. Someone can be eligible for a 15% bonus, but company may not have performed as good as expected. Our company may have exceeded the expectation, and the actual 15% bonus may actually be an 18% bonus, or in reality, because of the company not performing as good, maybe a discretionary 10% given to the employee. We would like to know what is the actual target that you currently have, and if that's a 15%, we'd like to know what the value of that 15% is. And in the last 2 columns, so column AX and AY, what we're asking is, in the last fiscal year, so LFY, please let us know if this individual qualified for a bonus. If they did, yes or no. If they didn't, we don't require any more information. But if they did receive a bonus in the last fiscal year, so that would have been your last bonus payment if you have an annual bonus payment scheme. If you have a quarterly or a biannual scheme, if you look at it from an annual perspective and communicate that information to us, and just let us know exactly how much did this person receive in the last payment last year as a bonus payment. And that is the actual input. It's very short, it's very simple, it's not very difficult. The hardest focus on this is identifying the job code, and that's based on the job matching process in which we went through today. Is there any questions? I'm going to have a quick look within the actual chat. Okay, that's great. I can still see that we have a few attendees here as well. That's absolutely perfect. Unless there are any questions, that's it for today's session. Anyone would like any further clarification, please feel free to email me, to drop me an email personally. Just to let you know, if you try to reach me today, we are all actually out at an external meeting. I've actually just came back to do this presentation. So no one within our London office is actually in the office today. We are having our steering committee meeting across the global tech region, across global tech industry in the UK, and we will be all unavailable and back in the office tomorrow. So do expect slight delay as we're out of the office today. On my side, that's it. Again, any questions, please feel free to contact myself directly. If you have any concerns regarding your actual statement of work or any documents, signed documents that needed to be dealt with Radford, that's within Brenda's remit. Once you have done that, everything is then over to me, and I will be your point-to-point and your face-to-face first point of contact as you go along. Thank you very much for your time today. Bye.